Welcome back to Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crosland. This show is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. You can use our code ADVICES at checkout for additional savings. And thank you to everybody who has been using the code. It's much appreciated, and it does make a difference. Got you on the mic here, Dave Crosland. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing good. We released these a week behind recording, so I'm just getting back from the Arnold, and Luke Sando just did quite a service for UK bodybuilding over here in the States, man. He really had a great showing. It was cool to see. Yeah,
third, I believe. Boy, did good, didn't he?
He sure did, and he, like we were talking about before we hit the button to record, He seems like he was surprised by it, even. Like, he looked like he was in shock.
Yeah, I don't think he's I think that's the first time he's actually considered himself up there with the top bodybuilders in the world.
Yeah.
And behind the Olympia, the next biggest show is the Arnold.
Right.
And then probably, it used to be the New York Pro, I would have said. I don't know if it is anymore. I'm not behind how it used to be. The New York Pro used to be a good show as well back in the day. But
yeah, I would say the New York Pro is right up there. There's a couple of them. And New York Pro, Chicago Pro, maybe Toronto. Those are all, big shows. But definitely the Arnold is bigger than that. And then, of course, the Olympia is still yet bigger. They always go for guys that are really big at the Olympia. They want the biggest guys out there, it seems. And although, Sean Roden isn't necessarily like the biggest guy, he's more aesthetic. I don't know, man. It could be a one-off. I could see them going back to, a bigger physique.
We spoke about this a little bit at the time. They do seem to have these moments where they try and drive down a more aesthetic, a more commercial look, and unfortunately, generally speaking, the public feedback on that is always "we want freaks."
Yeah.
So as a result, obviously, they did that with Dexter.
Yeah.
And then that didn't last. The next year they were back up to the big boys again. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes this year. But if Luke comes in similar fashion to what he did at the Arnold, he's definitely going to take some scalps at the Olympia.
Oh, yeah, no question. I could definitely see that happening.
And third qualifies him, I believe, doesn't it? His top three from the Arnold go through to the Olympia.
Is that what it is? I wasn't sure.
Think so. I'm not certain, so I'm sure somebody listening will know far more than us. Yeah. I don't know where I've picked that up from. I'm sure I've read it or heard it somewhere, but it could be bollocks. The top three qualify for the Olympia, so there's a strong chance. He may not choose to do it this year. I don't know, but based on that showing, it's usually a good indicator of placing well at the Olympia if you repeat the process. So, and he seems to have found his niche when it comes to prep, definitely.
Yeah, no question about it, man. So what else is going on?
Training's going well.
Yeah, training's going well. Before you weren't even training, and now you're back in the gym and it's going well, huh?
Yeah. The strength's coming up. Don't get me wrong, I'm nowhere near where I was, but
okay.
For an old fat natty bastard, I'm not doing so bad. What's this? Heavy set on seated curls today with 30 kilo dumbbells, which is 65 pound dumbbells in strict form for reps. So I can't grumble at that. That's all right.
Did you say curls?
Yeah, seated strict curls.
Wow, that's a lot of weight, man.
So that's back pinned against a 90-degree bench, elbows fixed, no elbow movement,
no swinging, no centrifugal force.
Complete extension, palm forward in about 1 5-second tempo up, 1 5-second tempo down.
Wow. Yeah, that's intense because let me see now. So when I first started training, I was told by a guy who was bigger than me that you don't need to use much weight for arms and to focus on the contraction. And
I agree completely. Focus on the range and the feel and do it strict. If you can move a heavyweight in strict form, then use a heavyweight in strict form. But by all means, I don't think you need a huge amount of load.
Well, here's the issue that I had, because I focused on that, and for some reason, I continued learning about all sorts of stuff with training well beyond that. I had to be probably 16 years old when this guy told me this. And I remember he was at this gym. I trained at the Wayne Recreational Center, city of Wayne, and all the firefighters from town trained there. And they'd come in at a certain time during the day and work out, and that's when I saw these guys. And they're big and jacked. I can't remember how big, probably not as big as I remember them being nowadays, But
yeah, you do tend to, because you were a lot smaller, you look at these guys as being monsters. Where if you met them now, you probably think, oh, they're all right.
Yeah, yeah. But I never, for some reason, I never evolved my bicep training beyond some of those ideas that he shared with me. And so I was still using like what I would consider to be lightweight for years. And it wasn't until I actually started using heavier weight that was very heavy to me, until I actually started seeing growth. Biceps are still probably one of my weaker body parts. They don't have a great shape. They're not the focal point on my physique. But I could see, man, 65-pound dumbbells. That would be very difficult, I think, for anybody, even a guy who's 300 pounds.
Well, the thing is, I truly believe that the key to good arm development, particularly biceps, is form. But that doesn't mean lightweight. That just means don't let weights control the form. Let the form control the weight.
Yeah.
So still push heavy, but in that strict form.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people get a little bit mixed up, because they think if I'm in form, I shouldn't be going heavy. No, you can still go heavy. You've just got to make sure that you keep that form. I'm quite, I don't know. I know I'm known for having big arms anyway, but I've always found with any exercise, when you start to concentrate on it properly, there's a lot of very small changes you can make to really enhance the feel of the movement. So I have quite a few things I add into my bicep curls. I grip the dumbbell with my little finger against the side of the dumbbell. I roll the dumbbell deep back into my palm.
Okay.
So it sits as far back into my palm as I can. So I'm gripping more with my palm than I am with my fingers.
Yeah, I can see that. I do that.
I keep my elbows slightly pinned forward and tucked in. And I make sure that dumbbell's moving, my palm is facing forward throughout.
Okay. Facing forward throughout, so you don't do like a supinated curl?
No.
No, you don't like that, huh?
It doesn't. The biggest part of the biceps, the long head. The long head doesn't activate until that little finger's facing forward.
What did you mean when you said something about what was the first cue that you said you do? Something about the way your finger was, or something touching the end of the dumbbell, or something like that. What was that?
I hold the dumbbell so my little finger's against the side of the dumbbell.
Okay, I don't understand that completely. What's the benefit of that?
It forces rotation of the wrist.
Oh, I see.
When we start to push, you will start to overgrip with your first finger and thumb, and you will start to rotate into almost your wrist will start to rotate, so the dumbbell the little finger will start to drop down.
Yeah, okay.
That takes load off the long head, which is the biggest part of the bicep, and throws load more onto the right head, because that's the short head, because that's naturally where we're the strongest.
That makes total sense now. Okay.
So by holding the dumbbell right in against the little finger, the actual weight of the dumbbell counterbalances that motion and forces the palm to rotate the opposite way.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I get that. How many working sets do you like to do when you're training biceps?
I generally, it's all a bit weird at the moment because weights are literally going up weekly.
Yeah.
So today I started with a pair of 7.5s, did a set of 10, then I did a set of 8 with 12.5s, and then I went up in 5 kilo jumps, sets of 6, until I failed before 6 on the 30s, and then I went and did 3 sets of concentration curls on each arm, and that was it, done.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
and it's my bicep training has not really changed much in 30 years.
How long does that routine take you?
What we're talking, 20 minutes, 25 minutes tops, 20 minutes.
And that's it. So you do that what, once a week?
Now once, but full bore twice a week.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot actually.
I've reduced my training. I've never been a high volume trainer, more of a low volume but high frequency.
Okay.
So when you look at a high volume trainer, generally they'll do one body part a week, but they might do 30, 40 sets on a body part.
Yeah.
I'll do the same body part twice a week, but I'll do 15 to 18 sets each time.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I started doing too.
The overall weekly volume's the same, but I'm doing it at a higher load because I'm fresher. That's always worked really well for me. Because of knackered kidneys and not being assisted, I've gone back to just really hitting a body part three times every 2 weeks would probably be about the frequency I'm hitting a body part.
Okay. Okay.
So I do a 4-day split, but I train 5 to 6 days a week.
Have you heard people say that you don't really need a lot of direct arm work, that if you grow your back, for instance, your biceps are going to grow? Have you actually ever taken time off of training arms and still had progress?
No, but I've maintained.
Okay. Okay.
But then that depends on how efficient you are at training your back. If you're efficient at training your back, you won't be recruiting your biceps much because you'll have altered your grip and your pull. So you pull from the elbows.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That only sort of works if depending on your level of ability within training the various body parts.
Okay.
It's like I probably get more tricep stimulation crossover from training chest than I do bicep stimulation crossover from training back. I'm very good at isolating my back. I'm not as good at isolating my chest. So because of my left pec being detached, I don't really have much option from the fact that my triceps are going to kick in on a pressing movement on chest.
Well, that makes sense too. Yeah.
So there's more tricep involvement for me in chest work comparatively than there is in bicep involvement in back work, because I've spent a long time removing my arms out of my back work because it was a problem. My arms did take over because they were so dominant.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time really working on isolating my lat, pulling from the lat, pulling from the elbow, not pulling from the hand, which means I don't get as much kicking from the bicep now.
Okay.
I'm still not training hard. I'm just slowly, each week getting a bit more, and each week the weights are going up. And obviously that will stop.
Yeah.
I expect it come to a grinding halt very shortly.
Now, one thing I've noticed is the more focused somebody gets into their training, the more likely they are to want to keep their diet clean and to, basically use a diet that's going to support what they're doing in the gym to enhance that. Have you found that your nutrition has changed at all since you've gotten back into, lifting consistently?
I'm less likely to cheat, definitely.
Okay.
The stable's still the same, but I am less likely to cheat. And whereas I might have, if training's not going particularly brilliant or not very consistent, and the kids are having chicken nuggets and chips, I might pinch a chip or a chicken nugget as I walk past.
Yeah.
Whereas now I won't do that.
Okay. Yeah, I've been trying to keep my diet a little bit cleaner now that I'm getting some pretty good workouts. And it's interesting that you've found that the higher frequency, lower volume approach. That's something it took me forever to learn. I got stuck doing the one body part a day thing for years and years and years, having switched chest only to 2 times a week out of necessity because my shoulder hurt if I trained it too long. I found that I started getting good growth, and now I'm trying to expand that and do the same thing with back and the same thing with legs.
Yeah, I've practiced that for a very long time. I went through a stage of reducing it down a little bit, and just found that it just didn't work.
You mean like even less volume?
Well, I dropped to one body part a week.
Oh, I see. I see.
And I just found I wasn't getting anywhere.
Okay.
The only difference I found, I think one of the problems one of the problems that I had to come over in my head was that I would be walking into the next session sometimes with a still DOMs in that body part I was about to train.
Yeah.
Or the sort of shadows of it, or they were still quite sore the day before. And it'd be like, or should I really be training? But I was still progressing in the gym. I was still seeing, it might only be small, but I was still seeing slight increases in weight or control or strength. And so it was like, well, it doesn't matter how sore I am. I'm still progressing, so I must be recovering.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
But it was a little bit of getting your head around that fact. Should I still be sore going into the next session? And DOMS isn't an indication of stimulation of growth, but we do enjoy it, and it does feel like a reward and a slap on the back saying, well done, you did enough work, that's why you're sore.
Yeah.
In the same way, DOMS isn't necessarily a sign of recovery. And I actually found that it wasn't, the biggest impact on my recovery wasn't my frequency of my training or how hard I trained. It was whether I started hitting single reps and how stressed I got.
Okay.
And that played the calmer and more relaxed I was, the better my training progressed and the harder and more often I could train. But if I started trying to pump out 1 rep maxes, it soon fucked me up. But I've always very much trained in 6 to 8 rep range, all the time. Yeah. But they've always been quite controlled reps. So convert that to a time under tension sort of assessment, and there's still been quite a decent amount of time under load.
Yeah. Oh, kind of off topic here. You mentioned something a little while ago about a police course that you were going to give. Did that already happen, or that's something you're going to be doing this next week?
Not next week, the week after.
The week after. What's that all about?
Basically, because I work in the courts as an expert witness, and I work with Kent Police, and all that means is I'm regarded by the courts, trying to think of the right terminology then. I'm regarded by courts as an expert in my field, which means I can then give evidence in a court, and my evidence of opinion, so my own opinion, is regarded as factual evidence.
Wow, how about that?
So
they actually believe what you're saying? Is that what you're telling me?
That's basically it, yeah. So
we did talk about this. We did like a whole episode on it a while back. Then I wasn't sure. So what do you do with the police? Is this where you train them to basically understand things from your perspective?
No, with the police course is training police officers to do that role in court.
Okay.
So they will come with all sorts of backgrounds. So they might have experience in firearms. They might have experience in drugs. Yeah. Which is where their knowledge base is coming from. And then we do a week where we teach them the rules and regulations of working in court. We do some drug content as well. And then the last day of the course, which is Friday, we do mock courts. So there's a total of 3 instructors, 2 of myself, and then sometimes a 4th instructor.
Okay.
And we play the role of judge, defense barrister and prosecution barrister, and we cross-examine them.
Okay.
So over the week, they've had to produce a report based on a scenario they've been given in a case. So they've been given the information, and then they have to produce a report analysing the information of the case they've been given and give their opinion on whether they feel that the charges against the person are viable or not based on the evidence. And we then stick them in a mock court on the Friday and tear them apart.
Okay, so you're looking for holes in their ideas.
Yeah, but the main objective of the exercise is less technical and more to do with just them learning how to work a court, learning how to work an aggressive barrister.
Okay.
So an aggressive barrister will basically poke you on the stand until you say something or give indication of something that would be contrary to the rules of which we operate. And one of those rules are you have to be unbiased.
Okay.
You're not there for the police, even though these are police officers and they are giving evidence in support of the prosecution. They have to show impartiality. Because technically, when you work as an expert witness, you work for the court. You don't work for the prosecution or the defense.
Yeah.
Even though the prosecution or the defense may have instructed you. So, and they might be paying you wages for that session, but at the end of the day, you are still there to aid the court in explaining the terminology and technological elements of what they're talking about. So you have expert witnesses in buildings. You have expert witnesses in firearms, in mechanics. You know, just give expert witness reports on injuries. You know, well, you know that injury could only be sustained, in my opinion, this way.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that, and you're there as an agent of the court. But what a barrister will do is they will try and poke you, and so that you become unsettled and say something incorrectly that they can then manipulate to make it sound like you're not credible and therefore have your statement removed.
Okay.
Because as the police have the right to present a prosecution expert witness, the defense have a right to represent a defense expert witness. Now, I generally do defense. and so if they can get one of those expert witnesses discredited in court and removed from court, then the court can only rely on their expert witness. So it puts them in control of the case to a large extent.
Okay.
So they'll try all sorts, and vice versa. So it's very common for expert witnesses to overstretch their knowledge a little bit when they don't need to.
Oh, really? What do you mean?
Well, they will try and, because you do a written report, and then that written report you sort of elaborate on and answer questions on when you stand in court. And so they may have something like, say it's a case where a guy's been dealing weed.
Okay.
So they may try and fluff the report out and sound cleverer than they really are by putting in a load of facts about weed that they've just got off Google.
Oh, wow.
Now, they have no relationship to the case.
Yeah.
They just big themselves up of knowing more about weed than they actually do. So when you stand in front of someone who really knows the topic they're talking about, they will know if this is bro science rubbish that they've put in their report or genuine. If it's bro science rubbish, you'll get pulled on it. Then you look like you don't have knowledge on your subject and your file will be removed. But it is very common for people to try and elaborate things to justify what they're saying. And it's, look, you don't need to do that. You just look at the facts and say what the facts say, nothing more. But obviously, they're police officers. They're used to prosecuting, so they come from an angle where, well, yeah, but we're trying to convict this guy. No, you're not. You've got to leave that all behind. Even though your boss is a copper, you're paid by the copper, you've got pressure from your department to get her guilty on this, you have got to be very careful that when you stand in court, you don't come across as being biased. Prime example, very simple slip-up of words. I did a cocaine case, and the accused had trace amounts of cocaine on a coat that he was wearing. The prosecution said this indicates or this confirms that the accused has been around large amounts of cocaine. And I turned around and said, no, it doesn't. All it indicates is that he's come in contact with cocaine in some way. You can't say what the amounts were. That one simple thing nearly got their defense expert thrown out. Their prosecution expert thrown out. Because her whole argument then was, he's not unbiased. He's made the assumption that this individual has been around large amounts of cocaine, and the case did hold large amounts of cocaine, 15 kilo to be precise. So he's assumed that there's been large amounts of coke. That evidence doesn't say that. All that evidence says is he's been around coke. Doesn't say what quantity.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got to be a little bit careful. And that nearly fucked their whole attack.
What did you mean when you said bro science? You said if you use bro science, they'll call you out on that. I don't understand how bro science ties into being an expert witness.
Because people will often, if they're dealing with a subject that they're not very, very familiar with, they will try and gain that information from the internet.
Oh, okay.
And that information is not always credible. A common thing is with police officers that work in drugs, they've got a great deal of experience on how drugs are dealt, how drugs are sold, street pricing, all that sort of thing. But they might not actually know how opium is made completely. So what they'll do is they will be dealing with heroin, so they'll start talking about opium production. They'll try and describe the opium production process, which they've copied off a website and got it wrong.
Really?
When they're much better just not discussing it at all, because they don't need to know how opium's made. It has no relevance to what they're talking about.
Okay.
I don't need to know how a car works to drive a car. I just need to know how to drive a car.
Right. That makes sense too.
So it's areas like that where they will do research, but because they don't quantify the research and it comes from a website, it's not always credible. So they don't know for fact that that's the truth. They're better just ignoring it, but they worry that then they will come across as not knowing what they're talking about. Because some of those barristers are ruthless. I mean, I've had my personal life and all sorts thrown at me on the stand.
Well, you mentioned that I remember you said one of the times I guess it would be the prosecuting attorney would be he was saying something against you that because you were a bodybuilder, because you've used these things, that you were then biased because you had this experience yourself.
I've had my criminal record thrown at me. I've had all sorts of things. I've had barristers stand there and say, "You're a crook. You're dishonest.
Wow.
You're this. You're that. You're the other." And
they called you a crook right there, huh?
Yeah. And you can appeal. The judge plays referee in these situations, and you can appeal to the judge. But at the same time, my argument, I've got a criminal record. Yes, I've committed crimes which I've served my time for.
Right.
Well, that means you're dishonest. No, it means I have been dishonest. It doesn't mean I am dishonest. And are you telling me that you no longer believe in the judicial system? It seems a bit strange considering you were. So but there's also, you can be confrontational, but you've got to be careful you don't go too far.
Okay.
Because then you're seen as being a cock, and that will get you in trouble with the judge as well. So you're sort of playing between these lines, and just every now and again you can sort of step on it, but got to be very careful you don't step over it.
Huh.
And barristers are the same. They'll push things, particularly in front of a jury. Not so much in a closed court, but if they're in a jury, they will push things. Because whether it's right or wrong is no real relevance. The fact is, juries buy into people.
Huh, yeah. And
if a barrister can make you look a cock, then the jury will be less likely to believe your statement, whether it's true or not, because they won't like you. So they will play games, and they will ask questions they know they can't ask, just to plant that seed of thought in the jury's minds.
Okay.
So there is no relevance to my criminal record being brought up in a trial. I'm not the one on trial. It has no relevance to what I'm talking about because my criminal record has no involvement with steroids. It's VAT evasion. It's tax fraud. It's got nothing to do, and it's 2000 when it happened, so it's old as well. But I just didn't pay me VAT like I should have done properly. Fiddled the books a bit. they'll pull it up and they'll say, well, Mr. Crosland, don't you have a rather extensive criminal record? And the judge what will happen straight away is the defence barrister will jump up and go, Your Honour, that's irrelevant and badgering. There's no need for that. And the judge will go, yeah, I agree. What's your line of thought? What's your line of questioning? Why are you even bringing this up? And the defence barrister will go, oh, sorry, Your Honour, I'll change tact. But you've now got a jury of 12 people sat there going, he's got an extensive criminal record. What the fuck's he done?
Yeah.
So it's out there then. It's done the damage they wanted it to do.
Hey, kind of off topic here. There's a guy named Tom Evans, and I believe he's from over there in the UK. He's a listener of the shows. He sent me a message of, this looks like it's all of the slang that you guys use in the UK.
Is it Tom Evans spelled T-H-O-M?
T-O-M-A-S,
right.
Thomas.
Right. I know a Tom Evans is spelled T-H-O-M.
So, faff?
Yeah.
A waste of time?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Gaff? That's your home?
Gaff is home, or is a mistake, or could even be regarded as a joke.
Huh. Okay, that's getting me confused. A git?
Exactly.
Git? G-I-T?
Git. It's an insult. You're a git.
Yeah, an annoying person.
Yep.
Now, I think, do I pronounce this gobshite?
Yeah, gobshite. Yeah.
A loudmouth?
Hey, basically a gob full of shit. Yes.
What are ghoulies?
Your bollocks. Your testicles.
You just used another British slang. I asked you what ghoulies were, and you said bollocks. Yeah. And then, so I need a translation for that too. See bollocks.
Testicles, sir.
I've never heard of this one. A Barney?
A fight, an argument.
Yeah. How does that make sense? I don't understand that. I mean,
I believe, now someone will obviously correct me because you know what it's like. You get it wrong and they're soon on the end of there saying, no, it's actually this.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe it comes from Cockney rhyming slam and was originally a Barney Rubble.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Which was rumble, as in a fight. But I may be wrong on that.
Okay, I got one for you. This is one I need some clarification on. So it says that a bell end is a dick. But do they mean that a person it's a dick or literally a dick?
Both.
Oh, okay.
So your bell end is the end of your knob because it's shaped like a bell. And you can be a bell end because you're acting like a dick.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. I've heard you use this one before, bits and bobs.
Yeah, bits and bobs. That's self-explanatory, really. Come on, I mean, that's just bits and bobs.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to I'll have to save some of these. It's an extensive list too. Let's see. I'm gonna find one more good one here. One that I haven't heard of before. I have heard of this one. A rug muncher. I think we say that. I think I've heard that here. I don't know if we say that here, but I've heard that term. I've heard of a spliff.
Yeah.
Now this is one. Let's see. A toff.
Yeah, posh person.
Okay. Yeah, I don't that toff. So how would you use toff in a sentence?
That someone is a toff. It's not really a word that's that common anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, you would regard someone who was rich or posh as a toff.
Okay, this one, I got one more here. This is, I'm going to see if you can guess what the word is. Here's the explanation. This word describes an idiot, and he also says used up north in Dave's neck of the woods.
Pillock, Wazik.
Yep, you got it, Wazik.
I was actually just thinking of Wazik in my head then as well. I was thinking, I wonder if he's got Wazik on that list.
And he has a whole list of Welsh slang too.
Oh God, I wouldn't have a clue there. But it will involve sheep, whatever it is.
Let's see. Tidy is good. That makes sense to me.
Oh, well, we have stuff like peng and deng and all sorts now. It's a fucking language I don't even understand.
Huh. Well, this is from Tom Evans. So I thank you, Tom, for sending this over. This will help me decode my conversations with Dave. I can understand him now.
If you start using Yorkshire, you're fucked, mate.
Well, hey, listen, we've got a couple of questions. We don't have a lot of them, but I know you have some new information you gathered together about one of our previous questions. Well, let's take a quick commercial break and then come back and knock these out. What do you say?
Yeah, ready for that.
All right, guys, we'll be right back. Hey, guys, why are you using sports nutrition that was designed for someone else? At TrueNutrition.com, they offer the world's largest selection of quality protein powders, and they let you design your own custom blend from a variety of powders, flavors, boosts, and packaging options, like the Team Skip blend, for instance. That's over 20 billion possible combinations to create a protein powder tailored to your diet, your goals, your tastes, and your budget. TrueNutrition.com also offers the ability to create delicious custom oatmeal blends. And they're third-party tested, proving that all their supplements are ensured to have the highest level of quality and value. Don't be a sucker and pay for fancy packaging and gimmicks. Discover the source that bodybuilders trust and stop using mass-produced nutrition that wasn't designed for you. TrueNutrition.com. And use our code ADVICES at checkout to let them know that you support the shows. Hey guys, I wanted to take this break to say thanks to Dave for everything he's doing here at Advices Radio, and thanks to Dave for everything he's doing for bodybuilding as a whole. You guys can check out more of his stuff. Go visit his website. It's croslands.org.uk. That's croslands.org.uk. Crosland's Harm Reduction Service specializes in providing concise, informative, and effective drug training to a wide range of professions, as well as advice to individual users. You guys can also check Dave out on his YouTube page, which is in the show notes, and also go to underconstructionthefilm.com to purchase the films today. Use the code ADVICES25 for a discount. All right, guys, welcome back to Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crosland. I'm Scott McNally. Dave, I'm exhausted, man. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm knackered. I could use a kip. Did I do that right?
Don't take up acting. It sounds so wooden when you say it.
How would you say kip in a sentence?
Yeah, I could do with a kip.
Yeah, I could do with a kip.
Yeah.
See, there you go. How about that? I'll finish up the podcast, do with a kip, and then go train. Sorry, I'm having too much fun over here. So,
if I start talking my local dialects, you're going to be absolutely fucked, because it's stuff like "tareet," which means "Are you okay?"
What is the word?
Tareet.
Tareet?
Tareet.
Yeah, I can't even say that one.
That's shortened from Ista Tareet, which means "Are you okay?"
Ista Tareet.
"Are you all right?" is basically the closest you'd get in normal speaking.
That is literally an entire different language right there.
Broad Yorkshire.
Wow. Do you guys have a lot of that kind of stuff?
You don't hear it much. You'll get old farmers that still talk a bit of Broad Yorkshire, which is, I mean, there's simple phrases which are every day. I grew up with, like, put foot in oil.
With what?
Put foot in oil.
I don't even know. I can't even. I would be lost if I just was walking through your neighborhood and somebody said that to me. I would have no idea what they meant.
Put the wood in the hole. Shut the door.
I don't know what's going on here anymore.
But that's what it means. It literally translates as "put the wood in the hole," meaning shut the door.
Yeah, okay.
Put the wooden door in the hole. Shut the door. Put foot in oil.
Huh. Huh. I thought I heard the word oil in there.
No, Hoyle. Hoyle.
Hoyle.
Hoyle.
Wow. My mind is blown right now. You know,
we have to do a whole episode on this shit. This is going to be fun.
you know, over here in the U.S., when we see a movie like the movie Train Spotting, it's been probably 20 years since I saw that. Those guys were Scottish, right?
Yes. Glasgow, I believe, is where it was.
Yeah, Glasgow. So because of their accents, we actually had translations on the movie so that we could understand it.
You're joking, man.
Oh, I swear to God. Yeah. Yeah, it takes me a while. Like if I'm watching, a film that would be, say, Scottish that had that type of an accent, that type of like a dialect to their voice and their speaking, it takes me a little while to get in the groove, and then I get it. But if I were just to hear somebody talk really quick and not be ready for it, I wouldn't be able to understand it.
Oh, I mean, like I said, there's so many. I mean, just local phrases. I mean, have you heard of the term having a brew?
Yeah, like a beer.
Well, for us, it's a cup of tea.
Oh, a brew. Okay.
Because you brew tea. You put it in hot water and you steep the leaves, so you brew it.
That makes sense. I think we have brew as a beer here.
Or if you want to cadge something off somebody.
You want to what?
Cadge.
Cadge?
To borrow.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. I don't know why it makes sense to me, but it does make sense to me. Like I don't know. I feel like I could understand that kind of. Huh.
To bray somebody.
To bray?
Yeah.
Bray. Bray would seem aggressive to me, like you were to hit them or something.
Yeah, you'd have hit them.
Yeah, I can see that.
That lad's got no gumption.
Gumption. Now, like that's no smarts, right? No intelligence.
Yeah. I'm impressed you got that.
No, gumption is a word here, but it's not one that we use. I feel like that may have been like 30 years ago. People would use the word gumption.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think I've ever heard anybody under the age of 30 use the word gumption before. Okay, so we had a couple episodes back, we had a great question relating to Anavar and thyroid hormone. We didn't have the answers at the time, but Dave did some research. He pulled some studies and stuff together, and after he went over that, we are now prepared to talk about that, which I think is awesome, man. You know, I want to tell you, too, one of the things about Scott Stevenson, with our show that we do, Muscle Minds, he tends to want a lot of time with his questions, because if he doesn't know something, he wants to research it. And the reason he does that is because he wants to educate himself through the teaching process. And I definitely pick up on that from you, too.
Yeah, I mean, I learn a lot by trying to answer other people's questions. You know, they come to me with a problem, or it comes up, and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to know what it is. Or I'll have half an inkling, but I know it's not quite right.
Yeah.
And the problem is you pick bits up over time, and you forget where you got it from. So you're always a bit like, now, is that bro science bullshit I've heard from somebody, or did I actually read that in a study, or who told me that?
Yeah.
So I went digging for effects on just thyroid production in general with AAS use to start with. And it's a really mixed bag. There's a few studies showing a mild suppression, and then there's studies showing no suppression. So the general conclusion is we're not sure. There is, in some cases, with certain drugs, an increase in thyroxine binding prealbumin, which is shortened to TBG.
Okay.
No, sorry, that's thyroxine binding globule.
Okay.
Which is a bit like increasing SHBG when it comes to test. It's a similar sort of carrier protein.
So it binds up your thyroid hormone?
Which reduces free-floating thyroid levels.
I see.
But what has been shown is that with Anavar in particular, that it increases thyrox-binding prealbumin, which is another protein, which results in more T3 being utilized, and it reduces TBG, which results in higher free-floating levels of T3.
Okay.
And that's about as much as I can find. It really is not much out there at all, and there's only one little bit of information I can find that basically says that Anavar slightly increases the utilization of T3 and slightly increases the levels of free-floating T3. So the two together combine more free T, more T3 used.
So what you're saying is that Anavar, and I've heard this in the bro science on the message boards, that Anavar can lend itself to have a fat burning effect.
I would have said that the real world impact is going to be quite minimal.
Okay.
And I think any offset would probably be completely upset and disrupted by 25 micrograms of T3 being added to your diet anyway. So I don't think it's going to be a massive change in regulation.
Yeah.
But there is some change there. And I think this is, we get this a lot. A study will show something and then everyone starts jumping around thinking that it makes a massive impact real world. And quite often it makes no impact real world whatsoever.
Okay.
I mean, we've used this example before, but the tamoxifen reducing IGF-1 example is a prime example of that.
Okay.
Or don't use tamoxifen as an anti-estrogen because it lowers IGF-1, yeah, but nowhere near as much as test increases IGF-1, so what are you worried about? Its impact just isn't there. There's far worse things we do on a day-to-day basis that impact our growth that you don't need to be concerned about this in its entirety, as an effect. But yeah, the science says that if you take Anavar, it does create a mild increase in T3, which in turn will cause an increase in fat loss.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's not something that I think I've ever noticed in my life. And you know what, too, as far as you saying it's not going to really be a huge difference in the real world. I mean, people use Anavar for muscle gains too, and I've never seen them have issues gaining muscle while using it.
No, exactly. And obviously T3 is quite catabolic, so if it was pushing those levels up to anything that was super pharmacological, you would know.
Yeah,
you would definitely know. So no, I mean, I've taken loads of Anavar in my time, and I'm still a fat bastard. So it definitely doesn't work.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking around here. You know what? I did hear some stuff. We talked last episode about LL37, a peptide.
And yeah, that was the thing I was supposed to look up, wasn't it? And I sort of drew a bit of a blank on there as to what people would want to use it for from bodybuilding terms. I don't see any real correlation.
Actually, I had heard about it. I'll have to dig back in my notes. I think it's on my laptop. It was mentioned at the John Meadows, Scott Stevenson, Dr. Serrano seminar. I hadn't heard of it before either until we talked about it on this show, and it was mentioned. I believe. You know what? I don't even want to say. I'll have to
because let's see if it falls in with what I found out, and then we can use that to. So what did you think?
I'll have to find it. Because I can't remember where it's at, but I thought it had to do with digestive health, improving digestion.
Right, because its main use is in skin issues.
Oh, really?
And the treatment of flesh wounds and that type of thing, and acne and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So I hadn't found anything regarding gut. BPC gut, yes, massively.
Yeah.
But I hadn't found anything on LL37 on gut. But if you've got something, then please let me have it.
Yeah, I'll find out. I'm going to talk to, who else knows about this? It got brought up twice. It got brought up at that first seminar, and then we did the live podcast gathering, and Carl Lenore was talking about it there. So I know he's familiar with LL37. He actually just texted me when we started the show. I need to get a hold of him. We're going to have a phone call after this. So I'll ask him, too, what his thoughts were. Maybe I could even get a recording of it, and we could air that here on the show on the next episode.
Please, yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to know, because I wasn't getting much at all. I didn't have a long time to deal with it, to be honest. The bloody thyroid stuff took forever.
Yeah.
So much conflicting stuff. It was like, go back to that one, go back to this one. Yeah. But I didn't get much more than that. But like I say, it wasn't something that I found a lot of research on. So if he's got some stuff, I'd love to see it.
Okay. I got a question here from Theron Danger. Hey guys, love the show. A couple questions for you. One, I just ran my own HRT for a 12-week cruise, 200 milligrams of Test E weekly, 12.5 Aromacin every other day, 2 units of growth Monday through Friday. Been starting my next coming up cycle. I've had my hormones checked. I just got the results back, which I have attached and will send to you when I figure out how, which you did get them attached there. Before starting my, let's see, do these levels look appropriate for my HRT dose? I was expecting higher testosterone levels. I'm 35, 5'10", 205 pounds. I train full body 3 times a week. I work on mobility, corrective exercises, and trigger sessions the other days. I'm a logger, so I don't get enough sleep, 4 to 5 hours, 5 days a week, 7 hours on the weekends. So let me go down here and see what his levels look like. He has so testosterone, let's see. So his range here is 7.6 to 31. It looks like it's nanomoles per liter.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, it's English then.
Okay, so 7.6 to 31.4 is the normal range. His is at a 22.7, and he's concerned that his levels would have been higher. Once again, I believe he said he was taking 200 milligrams.
They should be higher.
They really, because I feel like that's not terrible, is it?
No, but I would. Well, the two things we've got to be careful of here is when were the bloods drawn in relation to the injection, because that plays a massive factor to levels. Because we do peak about 24 hours after injection, so that would be the first thing I'd be looking at.
Okay,
but a shot of test. I'm trying to remember, and I can't believe. 20 minutes. I've just fucking gave me bloody. I've got a reference book with a shitload of charts plotted based on injection, peak values, time, dosage, week. Once a week, twice a week, once every other week, sort of.
Really?
Loads of them, and I've just lent it me, mate. So I will say otherwise I'd have pulled that out. But if I remember roughly, you're looking at about a peak value of around 50 of 200 meg.
Okay.
And you're looking in around 22 off a lower dose.
Okay.
So Nebido, for example, Nebido peaks at around 22 to 25 at the end of week 1, and then slowly declines and starts getting sub 15 by about week 4. But I really can't remember off the top of my head.
Have you ever used that, Nebido?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either.
Something I'm keen on. I mean, I'm on TRT, but I prefer to just use the old school source.
I almost bought some when I was in Costa Rica. The thing, it was interesting because the pharmacies there, you could buy steroids over the counter. I had a harder time actually getting the pins to use the steroids, but they were available. But the Nebido, that was the only thing that was available. I went to one pharmacy and I asked, for test, and that was all they had. They had like one dose of it, one box of it, and single shot. I believe it's 5 milliliters for the one shot, and maybe it's 3. I can't remember. So don't quote me on that. But they wanted a lot of money for it. That one shot, I want to say it was like $100 or something.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if there was gouging going on too. It was in a small town, so it wasn't like at a touristy spot. But nonetheless, man, that seemed it was not the investment I wanted to make. It was not a souvenir I wanted to purchase in Costa Rica.
No, it wouldn't be my choice to go for supplier wise, to be honest.
No.
I've just found a chart now that's showing 25 milligrams peaking at 15 nmol.
25 milligrams?
25 milligrams of test prop peaking at 15 nmol. So, yeah, I would, 22 on 200 a week, I would actually expect a slightly higher blood value, to be honest.
I've known of people, I've had clients that just don't respond well. I have one guy, Dave, that doesn't respond to anything. Even like any normal medications outside of steroids, he has a hard time getting responses, even, medications that he needs to stay healthy. I want to say he's on 300 plus milligrams of test. And that's just to get him in, on our range being, I think 300 to 1200. He's at like 600 using 300 or 350 test.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that are poor responders. There's definitely no denying that, but it's just, it's not that common. That's one of the problems you see with people is that, oh, I'm just a bad responder. I said, no, you're not. You just agreed to it. It isn't that common. It is quite rare to get a poor responder.
You know what I've noticed with the guys who say they're poor responders? A lot of them are younger guys that haven't been really doing it that long, and that they've built their foundation off of gear, and they've built up to become, we'll say, a mediocre middleweight, but they've been using high gear to get there, and then they have a hard time pushing beyond that, and then.
If you were a low responder, then you would effectively be a girl, or you would definitely have some very feminine traits, because you wouldn't respond well to your own natural production of testosterone.
Yeah. Or you just had low natural test to begin with,
Yeah, but if you've got low natural tests, then you're going to have a more feminized physique.
Okay, sure. Absolutely.
Because you're not going to have the right amount of testosterone in your system to develop normally as a normal male.
Yeah.
So if you're a low responder, then what you're saying to me is I've got a very small balls, a very small knob, and I'm not really a bloke.
Well, either that or, you could have high test, but if you don't respond well to it, then...
And you're not going to get normal male development. That's the point. If you have a genetic predisposition where you're a poor responder, you're not going to get normal male development, because when you go through puberty, your effective test levels will be low unless you have super high test, which is compensating for that low response.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Which is possible because obviously the body does adapt and will adapt the best it can to, various things.
Yeah, that said, everybody I know in the real world that does have super high natural test are usually more of your mesomorph, muscular guys.
So there's all sorts of factors in play when you start looking at this that can affect levels, your response, your actual production, even your estrogen in relation to your levels of aromatase and how much test you're converting to estrogen, your SPH level, SHBG levels, and how much free test you have. You might have normal test production, but incredibly high free test.
Yeah.
Which means you're going to be, you're going to respond better. So there's all these factors that come into it.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, people don't suffer with poor response. Generally, they're just shit at training or shit with a diet.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I could see that. Especially what?
That's usually what the cause is.
Okay. He had a few more questions here. I'll ask his next one. We have time for maybe one or two more. Should I be worried about my free androgen? Can you elaborate on how free androgen works? Let me see here. I'm going to pull up his images again. So
that's quite simple, really. We have two main binding agents within our blood. We have albumin and we have SHBG. The androgen, or the hormone, binds with these agents, transports around the body, and then will eventually be released. The higher levels of free androgens we have within our bloodstream, then the more bioavailable androgen we have to bind with androgen receptors.
So it's a good thing to have high free androgens.
Yep, the higher your free test, the better it will be.
Okay, so his free androgens. Well, first, let me see his SHBG, because he had that one too. He's got some good labs here. SHBG is a 17 on a range of 16 to 55. So he has low SHBG, and in a result of that, his high androgen index is 133.5 on a scale of 24 to 104. So that's pretty kick-ass, I'd say.
Yeah, his free androgen is high. Going back to his original question about his test levels based on his injection,
yeah,
he should be looking at a peak value of somewhere around 70 to 80 with a trough at around 50 nmol.
Okay.
So to me, he's low at 22.
Okay.
But he's obviously got low SHBG, which is what's pushing his free androgen up. Now, SHBG is a bit of an odd one as well, because the higher your free test, the lower your SHBG will get.
Okay. Yeah. Really? I didn't know that. I would think the higher your free test, the higher your
yeah.
That would make sense. Like there'd be more to bind, so you develop more.
It works in reverse.
Huh.
So once, because you will see people that come off cycle that will have normal test levels but end up with a rebound in SHBG and have very high SHBG, which causes them to be very symptomatic. And in that case, once you get some proviron in, which will bind with SHBG, it will allow the free androgens to rise, which will then start to regulate SHBG and push it back down to where it needs to be.
Okay. Interesting. Let's see. He had one more here, I think. How do you recommend I test my HGH? I would like to test different labs to find the best quality. Dosage, timing of HGH taken before test, fasted, levels, results. I'm looking for everything a person would need to know when it comes to testing. So it sounds like he's going to test. Oh, wait. Okay, yeah. So I'm guessing he's going to do this through lab work, because he also adds, I'm in Canada, but I want to use a third-party lab for testing my gear instead of going to the doctor. So it sounds like he's actually going to get his steroids tested in a lab, but he's going to get his blood work tested for the growth.
For the growth. Well, it would be measuring your IGF levels post-injection. Injection wouldn't have to be in a fasted state, and then you'd have to, in an ideal world, you'd track it as it peaked and troughed post-injection.
Yeah. I've seen, it's very popular on the message boards that guys will take 10 units of growth before they do their labs, I think an hour before they get their labs tested. And I believe that nutrition is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you eat or don't eat in order to do this test. And then they compare, 10 units to 10 units. But what I understand, though, is it's not accurate. It'll let you know if your growth is real, but it's not going to, some people will look at these tests and they'll say, oh, I scored a 30, so this is great growth hormone. Or I've seen sources that will say that, here's lab results from guys that were using our stuff, and our stuff tests at 30. Their stuff tests at 30 in that individual, and from that batch on that day. But it might not be the same for everybody, and it might not be the same for that guy in another situation. So I think the only thing you really can get out of it is find out if it's real or not. But I don't know if you really, Dave, do you need to do that protocol of doing the 10 units? I feel like unless you want to post it on the board to share that information and compare it with other stuff, I would just personally just take my dose the way I normally take it, let my IGF levels build for a couple of weeks, and then go in and get my labs done.
Yeah, I mean, the insulin will affect IGF levels. It will bring it down. So if you do eat within that window period, you're going to affect your IGF levels.
I understand it differently. I understand that you're not going to release GH in a higher insulinogenic state. But what I understand, though, is that the growth hormone itself, if you're taking it exogenously, it's a drug then. So, if I were
Sorry, you are right. I'm thinking of peptidics. I'm thinking of growth. Right. Sorry, my apologies. Yes, you are right.
Okay.
Yeah. Shut up. You carry on with the show. I'll just shut up and sit here.
The small guy runs the show while the 300-pound guy doesn't talk anymore. I don't think that'll work.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just sit here in my corner and say now.
And I'll just be an internet know-it-all.
No, you're right. My mistake. Sorry, I was thinking of peptides.
Right.
I just don't understand. I mean, apart from, like you said, beyond knowing if it's growth, which you will find out, you're not going to know if it's correctly dosed. You're not going to know what strength whether that 10 IU is 10 IU or it's 6 IU or it's 5 IU without having a control to measure against.
Yeah.
So unless you can get your hands on a genuine farmer growth that is 100% prescription grade,
yeah,
and use that to create a baseline that you can then measure other growths against, you're not going to know. And that's going to be different for every individual to some degree. So you will be able to find out whether it's real, but you won't be able to find out what grade of growth you've got, is it dosed correctly or whatever, because you've not got a standard to work against. I mean, this is how steroids are supposed to be tested. And when you use steroids or steroid testing for legal matters, the steroid has to be tested against a control. It can't be just analyzed and say, well, yeah, those peaks and troughs match this library vision, so therefore that is testosterone at that strength. It has to be tested against a graded standard.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's not worth jack.
I just thought of a good topic that I'd like to talk about with you on the next episode. Counterfeits. Because I think that, I've seen some pretty decent counterfeit farm grade growth stuff that I would, I don't know anything about counterfeits. It'd be hard for me to tell if somebody put it in front of me. I'd just assume, oh, this is real, but I know that people, especially guys over in the UK and Europe, you guys have the availability of a lot more farm grade stuff. I know that counterfeits are an issue. So that's a topic I'd love to dig in with you in the future.
Yeah, I did some time with I can't remember, Andrew something, Horsforth I think he's called, who works for Lilly.
Okay.
People that produce Lilly pens, and he works in their counterfeit department. And he said, now this is only what they've been involved with that's been recovered. He has yet to come across a genuine Lilly pen in the UK on the black market.
Wow.
Now, what he has said is some pens are smaller grade pens relabeled. So there'll be an 8 IU sold as a 12, a 24 IU sold as a 36.
Okay. Wow.
So he says that happens. He says, but the vast majority are just counterfeit.
Huh. Wow. That's terribly scary.
Yeah, he says it's very rare, but bearing in mind they only get involved with a small amount of what is trafficked in growth hormone in the UK.
I think you told me before, I think it was you that I spoke to, that the counterfeits that are out there aren't being targeted toward bodybuilders. They're being targeted toward actually tricking the higher end legitimate people that are buying quantities, like hospitals and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I never would have thought that.
Really, do you want to go to all the expense? I mean, you've seen how complex a growth hormone cartridge pen is.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to go through all the expense of getting the equipment and machinery to create that, to make that packaging, to make those boxes, to do everything that you have to do to create that pen, right down to the instructions that come with it, because you want to sell a couple of pens to bob down the road as a bodybuilder.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
You want someone who's buying 2,000, 4,000, 10,000 units at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is farmer warehouses.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That's where you would make the big money, I guess.
That's where it's viable for the hundreds of thousands of pounds you've got to invest into equipment to create those pens.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I mean, the machine that's used for sealing ampules.
Yeah.
That is a very, very expensive bit of kit.
I saw one in a bust that was, I can't remember where it was, I think Poland. They had one in like a dank apartment building. And they found this thing, you know, with a bunch of product and stuff too. But yeah, so they are out there, you know, it is happening.
Yeah, they are, but what I'm meaning is that's an expensive purchase.
Oh yeah, and I totally get what you're saying. That yeah, they're not gonna do that to trick some guy who's buying, you know, a couple dozen amps for their cycle.
No, they're not. You know, and it's like you say, it's just not a cheap bit of kit, and you're investing tens and tens of thousands of pounds in order to purchase that sort of piece of equipment.
Yeah. Well, listen, we didn't get through too many questions here, but we only have a couple more. So guys, what I'm going to do is encourage you to participate. Think of some good questions that you can ask Dave. And here's the way I'll put it. Think about where you're at with your own bodybuilding right now. Because I think sometimes people do, you know, everybody wants to help out, and I appreciate that, you know, thinking of questions for us. But the best way that you can think of a good question is think about where you're at right now and think about the areas that you feel you could genuinely use help, and go from there. You know, come on over to the forum.advicesradio.com. You can submit your questions there, and we will get to them on the next show. Dave, I don't know if you could tell by the sound of my voice, but I'm exhausted, man. I have not been able to sleep since I got back from the Arnold still. This is, we're recording this on Tuesday, and I think like my cortisol is just like shot. Like, I don't know if it's through the roof or what's happening right now.
You're just a busy man, mate.
I guess so. I only slept 2 hours last night.
You're famous. Well, yeah. I mean, you were speaking to me this morning and saying you were about to go to bed.
Yeah, no. That was actually, yeah. I slept for 2 hours. I got that Brandon Curry interview pretty late last night, and then I had to get that edited. Plus, I'm catching up on, you know, with client work. I let everybody know, you know, I'm probably going to get behind here, so give me a couple days leeway. And I had them not check in until I knew I was heading home. So I was kind of like, okay, send a check-in on Sunday, and I'll get to it on Monday because I knew I was going to be traveling. But I wanted to have it in my inbox. So nonetheless, I'm trying to get through all that stuff now. But I'm having a feeling, man, I'm gonna crash hard. I feel it coming on now.
Yeah, well, I've got to go and get me tea, apparently. So,
what you mean your brew?
No, I mean my actual tea, as in eat my tea.
Eat your tea?
Oh, for God's sake, you bloody Americans! Yes, breakfast, lunch, tea, or breakfast, dinner, and tea.
Oh, no kidding!
Tea is the evening meal, young man.
I like that. Well, I'm feeling knackered. I'm gonna get my work. I'm gonna get my work done so I can take a quick kip, and I'm glad we got through this this episode without a kerfuffle. Ooh, here's a real good one. I've heard this on some British TV shows, and it's the most disgusting word I've ever heard. Minge.
Yes. Yes.
That's got to be like the British version of cunt.
No, the British version of cunt is cunt.
Okay, I think you guys use it differently though. Here, it's a pretty nasty word here. Like
I don't like that word. I don't like using that word. And if you hear me say that word, you know I'm usually quite pissed off.
You're feeling pretty strong at that moment.
Minge is more of just a term for a female lady part rather than an insult, if you know what I mean.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, it sounds so derogatory.
So you wouldn't call somebody a minge.
I see. But you would
call somebody the C word, yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
But you would say her minge stinks of fish. You know. Well, depending on the type of females you frequent with, but you get where I'm going.
It was just your delivery of that cracked me up.
I was trying to think of an example.
All right, man, let's get out of here. I'm getting hysterical, I think. For another episode of Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crosland, I'm Scott McNally. Guys, we will see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Oh, man.